Welcome to Winephabet Street, Season 2, Episode 24, Y is for Yapincak. And with us for this episode is Andrea Lemieux, who is everything about Turkish wines. And Yapincak is an indigenous grape to Turkey, and Andrea is going to share with us her knowledge on this grape, and she's also just published a book, The Essential Guide to Turkish Wines. Hope you enjoy this episode.
Welcome to Uncork Your Mind, where we take the intimidation out of wine with your host, Debbie Giaquindo, the Hudson Valley wine goddess.
All right, we're on.
We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of Winephabet Street. It is so incredible to think that we are at Y of our second season. And this is going to be a great episode because I'm going to bet the majority of people out there have never heard of this grape. And we've got an expert on it all the way from Turkey. We have Andrea Lemieux, who is going to be talking about, if I say it correctly, Yapincak on Winephabet Street, right? Did I say it right?
Yes, you did. Very good.
All right, Andrea, can you give us a little introduction to you and how you're in Turkey and how you know about this grape?
So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Lori and Debbie. I have been in Turkey for about 9 years. I came here originally for a completely unwine-related job, fell in love with the country, stayed, slowly fell in love with the wine, became really interested in the industry and in all of the really interesting native grapes that they have here, and it just took off from there and made it kind of my mission to proselytize about Turkish wine and Turkish grapes as much as I can.
Well, I think it's awesome, and I have already learned so much. I know where to go when I have a question about Turkish wine. I know where to go. So welcome to Winephabet Street. I am your co-host, Lori. For those of you who don't know, my husband and I own Dracena Wines in Paso Robles. We specialize in Cab Franc, which we just found out on Friday that our latest vintage got another gold medal. So we are excited about that. And thank you. And if you can't find me on social media at Dracena Wines, I am also everywhere as Exploring the Wine Glass. So Deb, how about you?
I'm Debbie Giaquindo. I'm known as the Hudson Valley Wine Goddess. I'm a certified specialist of wine, a wine location specialist in port and champagne. And I'm also a partner in a restaurant in North Wildwood called Trio North Wildwood, and author of Tapping the Hudson Valley, day trips and weekend itineraries to the Hudson Valley wine region. And I have a funny story, Lori. I'm typing and it's coming up that I'm you.
I can see that. See that.
So
put a little Debbie next to it when it's you.
I've been saying Debbie next to mine. So if you type, see if you're me.
I did type and it comes up as Lori Budd.
Really?
So, yep, I'm just special. I'm everybody.
Hey, it wouldn't be a Winephabet Street unless there was some sort of a technical issue.
Yeah, I know. This is kind of trivial. We could deal with this one.
Yes.
So let's get going. I know. I'd never get that thing to work correctly.
All right.
It doesn't help that I can't see what you're seeing or hearing. I don't know, but
oh, you can't? Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I'm
Well,
still,
Andrea,
after like a year and a half of doing online wine tastings, still trying to figure out how to smoothly share my screen on Zoom. So I feel you.
I don't know, but you know what? We get the gist. And he's here. He is here. Elmo has made it to California officially, and he is very, very happy to welcome Andrea to Winephabet Street.
so Andrea, we know it's 2 a.m. by you, correct?
Yes, yes, it
Yeah,
is.
we got to thank you
Thank
for
you.
either staying up or waking up.
It's a pleasure, really.
You know, and tell us a little bit about yourself. You have this. Oh, that's you, Lori. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's all right. Deb, you're missing the most important thing. We have done our introductions. We have
Yes.
talked to Elmo.
Yes.
It is time.
All right.
to pour a
Maybe
glass.
that's what I need. A drink. I think I was trying to figure out why I was coming up you.
Oh, look at that color.
Cheers.
Okay, so
Cheers,
this is
yeah.
a 2018 Slancha.
Slancha. Mine is 18 too. Nice golden yellow.
Yes.
Ooh, very nice. Very, very nice.
All right.
No,
Well,
no.
we will get into it a little bit later, but I am
Yes.
drinking, thanks to Andrea, I am drinking a Suvla Reserve. Suvla Reserve 2018. And Deb, what do you have?
I'm drinking Sevilen. Is that how you say it? I'm not really
Sevilen.
good on pronunciations.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
All right.
really nice.
And Andrea, what are you drinking? Or are you drinking?
I
something
have
similar?
both of those open, but I am also drinking Pasheli's Yapincak.
All
And
right.
Pasheli is like the producer for Yapincak available in the US.
Okay. So that's the one that they're probably going to be able to find the easiest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So people,
right.
you hear that. You can find it. You can find it. All right. So,
Turkey
Andrea,
is good.
oh, go ahead, Deb.
No, I was going to say Turkey. I mean, I've never been to Turkey, but I've been to Chios, Greece, so I've seen Turkey. Can you give us some, our listeners and viewers an idea on where it is, how long? Because I know it's a long flight. I remember that. What's it like, in Turkey, like before COVID, and if they want to come to Turkey right now, what's in place? Because, and Turkey, I mean, I believe that's where, a lot of wine originated too.
Yeah.
So,
so Turkey it constantly surprises my mother how big of a country it is when she visits me and she wants to, she's seen something on television or read something. Oh, I want to go there. How easy is it to get there? I'm like, it's easy. We get on an airplane and we fly there. She's like, oh, it's not far away. Yeah, it's a big country, Mom. From the US, I guess, depending on which coast you're coming from, it's anywhere from, I think, 6 to, gosh, how far would it be to I've never flown all the way to the West Coast from Turkey. I know from here to Chicago, it's 11 hours because that's the route that I take.
Oh, okay. So it's probably then 16 hours because
Something like that.
it's like 4 hours to Chicago. So, wow, that's a haul.
yeah.
To a number of cities in the US, and they are one of the best airlines, internationally speaking. Domestically, they kind of suck. Don't
What was the airline?
Turkish Airlines.
Turkish Airlines?
Oh, okay.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, it is such a vast country, and there is so much to see and do and eat and drink here if you come as a tourist. It's easy to get outside of Istanbul. There are direct flights to so many cities in the country, and we have the wealth of Greece's ruins. There are so many ancient cities here. And quite often they are not terribly far away from a winery. So it's easy to do. Kind of history, tourism, art tourism, along with, gastronomy and wine. And it is really building itself up as a gastronomic country. And there are a number of cities here and wineries that are like friends of slow food. And a lot of places. One of the things that the wine industry does to encourage wine tourism here, because it's a very new concept here, is so many wineries have built on-site hotels and restaurants, and then you top that off with a lot of them having what one winery calls edible landscapes. So a lot of them try to, plant at least all of the herbs that they're going to be using in their cooking, or do base their menus entirely on what they can source locally somehow. So there's some really cool stuff happening here in regards to that. As far as COVID goes, so Turkey doesn't close its borders to many people because of COVID. There are a few countries that are still kind of on the please don't come list. But there are no general quarantines. I don't even think Turkey requires a negative. I think maybe you have to have either a negative PCR test or vaccination. There's a mask mandate generally, so you're supposed to be wearing them on the street and inside. And some places are better about it than others. But people are usually at least pretty good about it on airplanes, on public transportation, in museums, that kind of a thing. So it's kind of life like normal here, just with a mask.
I got to ask, you've been in Turkey for a number of years.
Yeah.
What do you miss from home, wherever home is in the States?
I mostly miss access to things, like access to, any country's wine, or, spices from anywhere I want. I miss good Mexican food, Chinese food.
I miss that. I miss good Chinese food. Whoa, there's nothing here.
Oh, we had some really good places. Well, I'm assuming they still exist. I lived in DC before moving here, and there were some fantastic places in DC for like real Chinese food, not American Chinese food. So I really miss that. Yeah, that's what I miss. And I miss my trip in DC.
So, all right. I think I pronounced it correctly. Yapincak?
Yep, Yapincak.
Okay. Yapincak. Okay. So it's an odd spelling. I'm not going to lie. And I do think that that's something that Americans have an issue with. They stick to grape varieties that they can pronounce and that are easy to see. So can you, I don't know. I've actually seen multiple ways of how to say it. So what is that? Is that always the C is always a J? Is that in Turkish language?
Yes. The C is always a J sound, unless the C has that little, I don't know what it's called, the
that little
thing on the bottom.
Yes. And if you see that, then it's a CH sound.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the I is not really an I, right? I mean,
the I is not really an I. There is an I with the dot that has a different sound that sounds more like an E. And this I it's even after 9 years, I still have a hard time actually pronouncing this particular vowel correctly. It's like
okay.
Like, it's ya-pin-juck, or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
You speak fluent Turkish?
No, not at all. I speak wine Turkish.
That's important.
Outside of that particular topic, I have trouble with things. I'm actually taking Tuesday nights. I have a Greek class, and my Greek class is taught in Turkish, and I am learning, I think, more Turkish than I am Greek from this class.
Wow.
So my mother-in-law is Greek, and I grew up with Greek friends. So the only thing I really know how to do in Greek is swear.
Ooh, I'm gonna be writing to you for some of those words. We haven't learned it.
It's funny how that's what we always learn. When you learn a new language, those are the first things you learn.
Yeah.
That and then food. Those are the important words.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead, Deb.
Oh, okay. So tell us a little bit about, let me see if I can pronounce it correctly. Yapincak. Did I do it right? Okay. About the history of the grape, like, the mother, the father of the grape.
Good. You start with the hard questions. I don't know the parentage of the grapes. I know it's an old variety. It's existed so Turkey is split into two sections. There's kind of the Thracian European side. And then once you cross the Sea of Marmara and the Bosphorus and everything, then you have Anatolia, which is on the Asian continent. So like Istanbul is the city that famously straddles both of these continents. Yapincak is from the Thracian European side. It's grown in a region called kind of Tekirdağ, which is the larger region, and then you see it in places like Murefte, Şarköy, Yayaköy. It's like all these like small little villages along the Sea of Marmara. And that's all I know about the history.
No, that's fine.
So I have, let me just see.
There's you sent some files.
Yeah.
Tell me when you want to use them. Okay.
I'm trying to find the other one. So Deb, pull up the map.
The map?
The Marmara. So the grape itself grows in northwest Turkey and mainly in the Marmara and Aegean regions. So can you tell us like about these two regions? And I think we have a map. Debbie's gonna.
Yeah, it's
going.
It's going. Something is new about Webinar Jam tonight. So.
And Kinali Yapincak. So, yeah. So, can you tell us about like the region and these two regions, like?
So this part of Turkey, at least as far as, if not administratively or culturally or anything else, this part of Turkey has what I like to think of as three different wine growing regions. Thrace is kind of at the top along the border with Bulgaria and Greece, and that's not the part that we're talking about as far as this grape goes. The Marmara region is kind of the chunk in the middle between Thrace and where we, if the map comes up, where we see the.
I don't think it's coming up.
Yeah.
And I'm in a loop, Deb, so just try to cancel it on your end.
Yeah.
No. So it's kind of like this middle part between really the mainland and where the peninsula comes off, the Gallipoli Peninsula. And this part of the country has a lot of influence, both from the Sea of Marmara and from a bunch of these small bays that come around, and then a little bit from the Aegean coming in on the other side. So it tends to be warmer and more humid than the rest of Thrace, and that seems to be where this grape thrives the best. These are usually pretty old vines that we're talking about. I mean,
not
like the centennial vines in South Africa or anything like that, but 30-plus-year-old vines. And as far as I'm aware, the majority of them, if not all of the vineyards, are grown in like the bush goblet style.
Okay. Wow.
It gets very windy there. It is very windy in that part of Turkey. And in fact, along the Sea of Marmara and in parts of the kind of where it meets the Aegean, I think they are pretty well known for having like kite surfing festivals every year.
That's cool.
So very windy. So growing in that goblet style really helps protect the grapes. And
but it's goblet bush. It's a bush. It's not like Asiatica, right?
No.
Okay.
No. We don't have those here. It would be cool if we did, but we don't. It's the goblet bush, and it's a fairly thin skin grape. Okay. So also growing in that way helps protect them more from the sun. And while it tends to be a kind of pale yellowish green color, it will develop like little brown freckles.
Yay!
And so you'll find that some wineries use kind of it's not an alternate name for the grape. It's kind of a nickname, I like to think of it as, for the grape. So like Laura, your bottle, it doesn't just say Yapincak.
No, it does not.
Kinali Yapincak.
Yes.
And Kinali is the Turkish word for henad. And that's what these grapes that have these little freckles, they're the henad Yapincaks. And so it's a
so mine name. Says something that says Beyaz Sek Sarap.
Beyaz Sek Sharap. It means dry white wine.
Okay, gotcha.
White dry wine.
So are the freckles like a different clone that only certain of them come?
I don't think so. I think it's
so I thought I read that it happens with the sun and it can make the wine bitter.
It can make the wine bitter. So I think it's a natural thing that happens with the grapes, just generally. Mm-hmm. And yes, pressing the skins too hard can make the resulting wine very bitter. So that's one of the reasons, as I've understood it, that the grape hasn't been used hasn't been really enthusiastically embraced, because there are so many wineries in this region, and 3-4 of them use this grape as all.
Oh, wow.
You have to press them very gently. So of course that means, you get less juice, which means you get less wine, which means it's more expensive to make. And I think Pasheli was the first one to really start using this grape. They released the first varietal wine with it in, I think he told me 2010. And then 2 years later, Suvla started. And there's another winery in that region. I think Melen uses this grape, and Sevilen started making wine with it in 2018. So it's, maybe building up a little momentum.
Is it an ancient grape? Like, has it been around for like centuries?
Since the dawn of age.
Yeah.
Since the dawn of age. I would like to answer that confidently with yes, but I don't know, because
that's fine.
I don't know that when you think about the various governments and peoples who have come through Turkey in the last few centuries, I don't know how well people kept records from, one ruling people to the other. So, yeah.
Why do you think it's so, it's said that it's difficult to grow? What makes it difficult to grow?
I don't know that it's actually so difficult to grow so much more as it is maybe difficult to make the wine, because of the freckles and the bitterness and the needing to use more grapes than you would probably like to make something commercially viable.
So is this typically, you said that those 3 wineries are, they're the ones who or 4 wineries are the ones who really use it. Is it used also as a blending grape in other things, or people just disregard this grape except for those 4?
Very little. Suvla also uses it in, I think, 1 or 2 blends. But if it also very well might end up in a blend without anyone copying to it. I believe that in Turkey, you have to have a minimum of 85% of that grape to have that on the label. So what that other 15% might be, So it may sneak into a few other blends, but as far as the people advertising that they're using it, it's really just these 3-4 wineries. But people are there. I mean, it is just these 3-4 wineries, but they're doing some really fantastic things with it. So Suvla makes, I want to say, 3 varietal wines with it. They've got like a basic Yapincak. Then there's the reserved, which is oak aged. And they do a traditional method sparkling wine with it that rests on the lees for a good long while. I think the most recent vintage that's out is a 2014.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So it's made in different ways. It's a very adaptable grape.
It is. And Pasheli now is doing skin contact wine with this, which is really interesting given that it has these kind of, these bitter freckles. So they don't leave it on the skin terribly long. So it doesn't end up amber or orange like we would think of as a skin contact white wine. But it definitely has a little bit more tannin and a little bit of a different flavor to it. They're also, they released last year, it's 2022 now, Turkey's first pet nat wines. They made 4 of them, and one of them they made with Yapincak.
Wow.
I bet you it tastes good.
It is interesting. I think I did not like it the first time I had it, but then I tried it again, and
it was better.
Interesting. It's what
Pet nat. You know what? I'll be honest with you. Pet nat is an interesting
concept
process to wrap yourself around. I'm in the process of trying to try different ones to see if I like them. To put it that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, of the 4 pet nats they made, I'm going to be honest, it was my least favorite of the 4. But I thought the flavor profile was very interesting. It was just, to me, it tasted a little hoppy, and I do not like beer. So
wow,
that immediately turned me off. But then there was like some honey and some chamomile and some other interesting things happening with it. And I'm looking forward to trying the new vintage when it comes out.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. So where do we leave off here? So can we talk about the wines that are like kind of in our glass, like the grape? Well, we've talked about the the grape and the different methods. It's stainless steel, oak, method champenois, pet nat. So what is the characteristics of the grape when people see this on the shelf in the store and they're like, should I try a Turkish wine, or they're in a Turkish restaurant somewhere and, what's the profile they can, kind of have in their mind on what to expect?
I think like aroma and flavor profile wise, it really is going to depend on both how it was made and really where it was made. These small little villages, like Pasheli especially, is good about making like single vineyards or at least single village wines with Yapincak, and it will change depending on where it is. But I think you're definitely looking at citrus, but like
I'm going to try to bring up your profile. Oh, look, that works. Okay. So for those who can see this is actually Andrea's has a book, which we will get into in a little bit, but this is a tasting profile for Yapincak.
So citrus, yellow fruits, and kind of every yellow fruit you can think of, as from like tree fruits, apples, pears to stone fruit. You'll get some almond in this, floral, mineral, depending on where it was grown, and it does do very well with oak, and it will take on kind of vanilla, creamy, honeyed flavors if it has been aged in oak. I think also one of the things that I look for in Yapincak is texturally, it reminds me in a lot of ways of Viognier. It's got kind of like an oily fatness to it. Which I think especially the Sevilen really illustrates. And I mean, it ages well. I mean, this is the Sevilen is a 2018, not oak aged. I mean, this is just steel, made in a very simple but thoughtful manner. Their winemaker is brilliant woman, and I mean, it's still going. It's still going, and it's one of my favorite wines, actually.
I would not say that it's bitter. I don't get a bitterness out of it. I can see.
I don't either.
I can see a Viognier comparison. I can kind of see that. But it's to mine, the Souvla, it's almost more Roussanne to me.
So yours is more full-bodied.
Yeah.
Mine's more medium.
It's I still kind of would classify it as medium, but maybe give it that little, that little extra plus thing that we all hate so much. Medium plus in the body. But it's got like the nose, I don't know, the nose reminds me somewhat of Roussanne. Maybe, not that this is the first time I'm smelling this. So I think that if I was blind tasting, Yapincak would not come to my mind.
Yeah, I have a little minerality on mine, on my nose.
It's not quite. I would be baffled. I would say Roussanne, but it's not a true Roussanne. You know what I'm saying? But.
And I think it makes sense that yours would be a little bit fuller bodied. I mean, both because it had some of that oak aging, but also the Souvla wine, the vineyards are in Gallipoli, which is on the Gallipoli Peninsula. So it's going to be a bit warmer there. They also have like I think, what did she tell me? Sandy clay soils.
Okay.
It's warmer, and they're on the peninsula, which means that they've got the Aegean coming on them from this side, and the Sea of Marmara coming from them on this side. But the Sevilen vineyards are a little bit closer to. They're more. I mean, they're along the water, but they're on the mainland, so they're not getting. If anything, they're getting a little bit of the continental influence from the Thracian side of the country, as opposed to both of the waters.
It's more acidic than a Roussanne. Now that I'm tasting it more, I'm like, maybe I need to backtrack off of that Roussanne. But that was my first thought. If I had to blind nose it,
I would almost say medium for medium minus acidity. It's not bouncing with acidity or anything.
It's not. It's a hard grape to pin down. For that very reason. And I mean, I know it might also have to do with, and this was a question that I forgot to ask the winemakers when they did their harvests.
Okay. So what, can you elaborate on why you would ask that question?
Well, especially since they are coming from two different parts. I mean, nearby, like an hour drive from each other, but far enough away and with enough different climatic influences. Depending on when they did their harvests, they might, like the Sevilen Yapincak might have been left a little bit longer and lost a little bit more of that acidity to the sugars as it ripened a little bit more. It's also a significantly darker color than any other of the Yapincaks that we have.
Okay.
Whereas the Souvla, because it's also got these breezes working for it, and because I know that they do pick to make sparkling wine, traditional method sparkling wine, they might do an earlier harvest. Let me see. I don't know if
I'm getting now that it's warming up a bit, almost like a baking spice type. It's like
I got a hint of a banana.
Like I'm calling it a baking spice. It's so horrible. Almost like an allspice. Let me go back to almost like an allspice nose. Am I being weird?
I said, no, not at all. I could absolutely see that.
It actually reminds me, and nobody is going to know what the hell I'm talking about, but Mike loves these cookies, and I haven't made them for him in years. But it has allspice and ginger. I think it's an allspice cookie. I don't know, but he loves them, and it kind of reminds me of that. It's a little, which I guess I wouldn't expect that in a white, but it's kind of all spicy and maybe
now that you say that, that's like all I taste. And I'm reminded that I'm reminded that I love this wine, and I so rarely let myself have it because it's not an inexpensive wine on the Turkish market.
Oh.
So it's not a wine that I would just open any day of the week.
It's not a Wednesday night wine.
It's not generally, although this would
I almost get. There is almost like a I don't want to say it like on the finish now that it's warmed up, as it's dissipating. It's like something from my childhood, and it's like I used to buy it from the Good Humor guy. It was taffy between two pieces of wax paper.
Yes,
Laffy Taffy.
No, I don't know what it was called. Bill, the Good Humor guy, would sell it in front of our elementary school when I lived in New Rochelle. And it was almost like the banana one. It's like a
like a banana runt.
But I don't like banana. But I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, that's a definite
banana.
And
Andrea, can you?
Which is a completely different profile. It's like pear blossom, yellow fruits. It's a little mineral.
I got some mineral on mine.
Yeah. There's some sort of minerality, to it.
And it's a very sensational minerality. It's like something that you feel kind of alive on your tongue, I think.
Yeah, it's not the wet stone. It's not. It's not.
But it's definitely like a fun wine that speaks to you, but not a. It's not bouncing.
No.
Yeah.
It's a definitely a it's a fun, nice. I'm finding it very easy drinking.
So let me just go. You said it's not a an inexpensive wine. I didn't even look at what these wines cost. So what does my wine cost? Am I going to keel over in my chair here? What does
might very well. So we just had another price increase, both because it happens every new year and because of the most recent round of inflation. So I just bought this one the other day. So it was 280 Turkish lira, which I don't know, divide that by 13. Where's my calculator?
I guess. How much? 280?
So it's about $21, which
$22.
Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot when you're in the US and you see wine prices from all over the world of all different ranges. For here, it's a pricey wine.
That's
here.
a pricey
that
wine.
One
okay.
now is, I mean, it's not the most expensive. They get more expensive here too. But for the local market, I mean, that's a pretty expensive wine. The Sevilen maybe runs around $13-14.
Okay.
Oh, okay. But and then what about your third one? This
one,
because that's the one that most are going to be able to find, correct?
Yes, most people should be able to find one of the Pasheli Yapincaks. I think this particular one didn't make it to the US, but he has another one that did. And I am really quickly looking up one of the shops that I know carries it, and I will be able to tell you. how much they charge for it.
So the drinking age in Turkey is definitely 18 years old.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yep. So I think this
plus.
in the US would run you maybe $15.
15. Okay. And now, so the one I have is the most expensive. So is this because it's oak? It's got oak on it, and Debbie's and the other one you have is not oak aged?
Mine is the Pasheli was aged partially in oak. It sat 5 months on the lees in a combination of steel tank and like 300-liter French oak barrels, but only 5 months. Whereas yours spent 10 months.
Okay, well,
it was
that
also
always bumps up the
fermented.
price.
Yep, it was also barrel fermented, which also increases the price. And then, I mean, also, to be fair to Suvla, they have a more basic Yapincak that is much less expensive. Okay. And so this is their higher quality level wine. So yeah, the price always goes up.
So I'm gonna ask you a question, which I blew my mind when you first told me this. Although I don't know why, because there's so many rules for here with TTB and all of that stuff and whatever. But it is actually illegal for the wine to for the wineries to promote themselves on social media. Is that right?
Not just on social media. Advertising alcohol is illegal and has been since 2013. So not just the wineries, like Rocca. This is the country of Rocca. You can't advertise that. You can't advertise beer. None of this. And so by that law, in theory, you are also not supposed to be having websites or social media. And one of the ways that some of the wineries get around this is they have all these things, but they don't show pictures of the wine. And they don't show pictures of a wine label. So that's kind of one of the little loopholes. But I also don't know that this is at the top of anyone's cracking down on anyone who might be skirting this particular regulation. Is not exactly on the top of anyone's priority list right now. But I guess it depends. It depends on how you read the law.
So is it kind of equivalent to like a lot of our pre-prohibition laws that just still are on the books, or Deb, we did an episode of Wine Writers Wrap Up that had ridiculous state laws, like you can't ride a horse and drink alcohol or whatever, like something like that. Yeah. Do you think that's what it's like? It's just these ancient laws, nobody pays attention to them anymore?
Well, I mean, no, I think that this is a serious law that, that they really mean. And there were a number of wineries when I reached out to them for interviews who didn't want to talk to me because of this ban on advertising. And a lot of people are very serious about not having websites or any social media presence at all. But I think it's a little bit more like, it's a little bit like the way Turks drive, and all of the road rules and regulations are suggestions.
Oh, okay.
Or at least that's how it seems to me when I'm on the road, that everything is just a suggestion. You're on like a 4-lane road, and suddenly there are 6 lanes, and you're wondering how that happened, and how is there room for this car next to me?
But do you think
remind me not to want to drive in Turkey?
Do you think that the wineries are afraid? How do I say this? Are afraid if they were to say put the ones that don't have websites up there? I mean, and they're afraid to talk to you because you're going to, be talking about their wine and stuff, that there would be some type of penalty that they would have to pay?
that was my impression when I spoke with them. And there are a few wineries who, like I said, are very much by the books about this, and they won't do anything that could be construed of as advertising. And a lot of those wineries are the bigger wineries. One of them told me, we've got such a spotlight on us because we are a big winery, we're a well-known name, so we can't afford to play around with regulations. Whereas others maybe host a website on a server that's based somewhere else, and they get around it that way. And there are, some of this is because of the exporting that they do. There are a few wineries that have social media that is like it's their German social media or their Dutch social media site. So lots of little loopholes.
Michael is asking if you think that regulation is due to Muslim influence.
That's a good question. It is entirely possible. It's funny because Ataturk liked himself a tipple, and I think there are many famous pictures of him having a glass of something. And one of the first modern wineries he started, there was the Ataturk vineyard and farm center in Ankara, which he started to help, keep the wine industry back to gear after phylloxera came through here. And we do have a more conservative, pro-conservative Muslim government now. So it very well could be that. They certainly like their tax money, though. So they're not shutting it down yet, which is, I think, what we're all thankful for.
Like it blows my mind. Like, how do you, if you are a winery, how do you decide to go into, because we all know wineries are not cheap, right? It costs a lot of money to produce wine and to have a winery. If you can't advertise at all, how do these wineries expect to make money? How, or get customers or whatever?
Yeah. It's people here are very, very smart and very entrepreneurial. So I think that's one of the reasons why I mentioned earlier that they're doing to help support enotourism is so many of them have an on-site restaurant and they advertise the restaurant.
Can I ask you, are wines available at other restaurants that not necessarily their restaurant? Like, can they sell their wines to other restaurants?
Yes.
You can do all that.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. And there are a number of wine events that continue to happen in Turkey. There are two, the last 2 years aside, there are two that happen in Istanbul. There's a big one in Izmir, which is another one of the big cities. Bursa, which is a really conservative city, from what I understand, has a big wine festival as well. They have a really big gastronomy population there, like people really interested in food and drink in this city. So how they manage to do all of these things despite this ban is one of those things that flummoxes a lot of us.
I get it. It's an interesting thing, like Evelyn has put in the chat, not being able to advertise would be tough there, if you were a winemaker. And I think about that. Like, if I couldn't advertise, how is somebody going to find me? How,
or promote your product or talk about what you're doing. That's
right.
That's what it's
And
about.
I think that's one of the things where I mean, I've read so much over the last year or so about criticism about wine influencers on social media. And I get where a lot of these articles were coming from, because yes, I hate the people who are just the who you know who I'm talking about, the influencers
The social,
who aren't
what was
actually
the movie? Social distortion. Those kind
like the
that's
people who aren't the people who aren't caring about the wine or the information that they're actually giving.
Right.
However, here the social media influencers for wine, they are the advertisers. That's kind of how they function. They are the de facto advertisers because they're individual people. They're not associated with a winery or with with a marketing firm or anything. So they can post as many pictures of wines and talk about them as much as they want. And some of the accounts here have, tens of thousands of followers. So they're a really big deal here, in a good way. And there's also, I've recently made an acquaintance of a fantastic young woman who is a winery marketing expert. And we had I can't wait to talk more with her, because we started talking about kind of like black market, like the black market marketing, kind of like how do you market wine when you can't advertise it? And so there are people who work on this here. It's fascinating.
That's pretty good. It's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely interesting.
Yeah. So it's almost dinner time where I am. Well, actually, it's past dinner time. But what's a good pairing for this?
Oh,
what do you think? Let me
taste one that you have again.
Well, all three of them. I mean, I know we go from one extreme to the other. So you got the bubbles and, but I can see mine almost with a lot of fish.
Yes.
Like
a lot of fish, a lot of seafood, salads. Yeah. These are great wines to take with salads.
Mm-hmm. Cold soups, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Cold soups. I've also done like some chicken with savory fruit sauces.
Okay.
With a couple of these, like baked chicken with some quince or some pears or something like that.
Quince.
That can work very well. And also, if we're talking Turkish food, one of the things I really like these with is the stuffed grape leaves.
Nice.
Okay. I was thinking falafel.
Ooh, yeah. Falafel would be good.
Yeah.
Like that. I'm still getting that allspice. That's all I'm getting.
I can see something with pork and apples.
Pork and apples. Absolutely apples.
Yeah.
Oh, Philip here has a question, which is totally going to change the subject. Do you suggest traveling to Turkey with a suitcase full of top quality international wine?
It depends on how willing you are to lose that wine when you go through customs.
Are you not allowed to bring wine in?
You get 2 bottles, and they're very serious about it. If they catch you, they're very serious about it. What they do when you enter Turkey is, you go through the nothing to declare line, but there are usually a couple of security guards standing there, and they wave people over to a different line, and then you have to put your bags through a scanner. And those scanners can tell that you have wine. So they'll take it away. You don't get fined, but they'll take it away, because there's
you're not going to end up in prison, are you?
No. But it's also not like the U.S. where you just pay the duty on top of it. They don't have that here. Yeah.
So 2 bottles. Ooh.
2 bottles.
So Philip, you might want to limit how long you're there. You can only have 2 bottles.
or drink a lot of Turkish wine while you're here.
There you go.
You know what? When you go to a foreign country, you're supposed to embrace in the food and the wine of that country. So absolutely. You know,
Yes,
that's what you're there for. If you wanted to drink what you have at home, stay home.
that is true, right? You can always drink what you have.
You know.
Right. So you did say that these wineries, that at least the Passage, the one you have that we don't, we can find here in the United States, but but in terms of export, like, do you know how much, like, not necessarily what Turkish production is, but like how much gets exported versus how much stays in Turkey, you know?
I don't. It's not a lot. The exports, there are a few bigger target markets for Turkish wine exporting. The UK has a fair amount. Germany, the Netherlands, Australia is a big market.
Okay.
Hong Kong, but North America doesn't get as much as I would like to see. Which is there. I mean, there are so many reasons for that. But no, unfortunately, I believe that I'm going to say a number and somebody's going to call me on it and say that I'm totally wrong. And I kind of hope they do so that I know the real number. But I would say that less than a quarter gets exported.
Oh, wow. Okay. So not a lot at all.
That's not a lot.
Not a lot. Not a lot. And there are really a few big names doing exports. And why not necessarily the biggest wineries here, just a few names doing it. Some of it is because why do I think it's just a few of
it's
them?
Not exported. That it's not exported.
There are a lot of reasons. One is, I mean, I still have a hard time convincing people that Turkey is a winemaking country. So, no one's going to their local shop asking for Turkish wine or deliberately looking for it. So there's not a huge amount of demand outside for Turkish wine. There are also a number of logistic problems for some of the wineries because we have so many wineries that are very small that, make less than, I mean, we have a handful that make 5,000 or less bottles, but we have a number that make less than 100,000 bottles. And big importers want that or more. And people are saying, I can't give you that. I don't have that. Or if I have that, that is my entire production. And
right.
you can't have it all. And then there are some issues with the wineries themselves. We do have some imported wines here. They are massively overpriced and for the most part, not great quality. So just kind of because of the way the market is, Turkish wineries have a monopoly. And so if they're charging, $20 to $30 a bottle here in their monopoly, and an importer says, you can't charge that abroad because now you're competing with everyone, then some of the wineries get a little, what do you mean I can't? That's my price. That's what my wine is worth. And then they refuse to sell their wine.
So there's not many wines that are available, imported wines, like you don't see any or a lot of California, French, Australian.
We see very little American wine. There are one or two German wines floating around. It's been years since I've seen an Austrian wine. We mostly get really, really, really cheap Bordeaux. They love Bordeaux here. Most wineries here make a Bordeaux blend. There's a fair amount of Italian wine, especially cheap Chianti. But then we also get madly expensive, Chateau Latour kind of wines here. I mean, there's either all of this or some of this.
Well, it kind of shows the divide of the income categories.
It really does. And the markup on the wines is insane. I remember when I first moved here, seeing a wine that I used to see all the time at Trader Joe's for $8, and it cost the equivalent of 20 or 25.
Oh my goodness. You're like, ah.
Yeah. I think it was when I saw that bottle that I was like, let me check out this Turkish wine. What is this grape called?
So actually, that's perfect, because I'm going to ask you about your book. So you come to Turkey, and then you explore the Turkish, wine scene, and now you've just released a book. So tell us about the book. And I have been seeing your little cards similar to like what I had, what Debbie and I showed up in the chat there. But tell us about your book, and can Americans find your book, and what can we do?
Yes. So, God, I don't even remember how many years ago it was now. 4 or 5 years ago, I came home from a trip somewhere. I'd been to a few wineries. I'd bought their Wines of This Place book, and like, geez, why doesn't Turkey have this? I mean, this is such a tourism country and so much food and wine. And I kind of sat around for about 6 months going, well, surely one of the Turkish wine bloggers is working on this. And nothing. So, all right, I'm going to do it.
Good for you.
And in my absolute utter arrogance, I was like, wine is such an international thing. Surely everyone will speak English and I will have no problems contacting people. That was not true. My research partner and I started keeping track, and I think we did about 3/4 of the interviews in Turkish. Like,
oh wow,
it's not a lot of English. So I spent
That's
4
when you
years.
go Google Translate.
Yeah.
To a degree, yeah, when we wanted to be fast and, like we were trying to get through some, if we could get material from people. This is why my wine Turkish is so good, because, you have to go around asking people about their soil types and their vintage variations and all of these weird things. But I spent about 4 years with a research partner and my photographer, whose name is Emma Aslıhan Başar Rose. She's a Canadian Turk. I met her in Turkish class. And then most of the way into kind of writing the book, I met my phenomenal graphic designer who made all of these infographics for me, who designed my whole book, who did the cover. I mean, she's just a brilliant woman. Her name is Başak Göklich. She designs under the company name Empathia Creative. And yet finally I finally had a book. Spent a few months trying to interest a traditional publisher in it and had no bites. So went the self-publishing route, and
right. So did I.
Yeah, I'm happy I did it in the end. I'm annoyed with myself that I spent so long trying to get a traditional publisher.
You have more control.
So much more control. Much more control.
And when you want to update it, it's very easy to update.
Yep. And yeah, it was absolutely the good way to go. And I think I finally had the physical book in my hand. Gosh, only in like the beginning of December. It hasn't even been that long yet. So yeah, in the US and the UK, Australia, etc., it's available on Amazon. It is possibly available in brick and mortar stores, but since I'm not there, I don't know. I know it's also available on Amazon in Canada, because a few people have sent me pictures. And here in Turkey, it is available in a number of bookstores and wine shops.
Yes, we've been seeing that on your social media. Congratulations.
That's awesome. That is way awesome.
Thank you. It's one of those things that's so, as soon as I got the book in my hands, immediately noticed like 10 things that I missed during my editing, my many, many rounds of editing.
I did the same. So,
one of the winery owners said the best thing to me, because I was telling him, I was like, oh God, yeah, so many mistakes. He was like, you know what? we make mistakes sometimes with wine too. Like the first couple of years, we mess it up too. And I'm like, thank you. It's the best thing anyone could have said to me.
Well, Evelyn in the chat is saying, I love the cover of your book. Glad you committed yourself to getting it done. I have looked into self-publishing the route as well. So,
and Evelyn, if you have any questions about the self-publishing route, I know you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Andrea. We'll be able to share it.
So, and no, Karen, we're getting there. Tell us the name of the book so that they can find you on Amazon.
It is The Essential Guide to Turkish Wine. This is the cover that Evelyn is so kindly sharing all of the time on the Facebook group, which, well, it's backwards for you guys, but this is it. Yes, fantastic designer. She did such a beautiful job with this.
Well, congratulations, because I think it's incredible. And Debbie too, you both have your books published, and that in its own right is an incredible thing. And I know what it feels like to see, even from working non-wine, working in Unilever, where I met Mike or whatever, seeing your product on a shelf, like when I see to this day, and it's been like, I don't know, 30 years since Lipton Original, when I see somebody drinking Lipton Original, like, yeah, you're drinking that because of me, and it's, and Mike has that same pride in the product. We can't go into a Starbucks and without him saying, oh, well, that's my syrup, or that's, whatever, so I get that pride thing. So for both of you to see your words in a book and have people purchasing it and to be an authority on something is just incredible. So kudos to both of you. Kudos.
Oh, kudos to you. That's off.
Yeah, it's
it was going to come to the U.S. and do a book tour.
Oh. It's so far away. Unfortunately, the likelihood of that is fairly slim. So I am just promoting it online. I think the soonest that I will get back to the U.S. is probably not until next September, October, when I will be visiting my parents, because I've been a bad daughter, and last year was the first time in like 4 or 5 years I've seen them.
Oh.
So.
Well, it's tough when you're, working abroad. You're working abroad, and then, COVID happens, and
yeah. The pandemic really got in the way of visiting. Yeah. So, I mean, you can come to Michigan. I can do a little tour around my parents' village.
All right, road trip.
Yeah.
Well, Deb, do you have anything else? Did we miss anything?
I don't think we missed anything. But yes, actually, Andrea, where can we find you on social media, your website? We know you can buy your book on Amazon. The title of your book.
Yes. So The Essential Guide to Turkish Wine, you can find me on Amazon. I am the Corky Cork. So thecorkycork.com for my website. Twitter, I am Lemieux Andrea. And Instagram, I am Corky Cork, but without the because somebody already had it.
Dang those people.
Happens.
I know, right? I know. Yeah. No.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, oh my God, for staying up late.
Waking up.
And I gotta go with, you look phenomenal.
You do.
2 a.m. and I would be like, okay.
Well, I did start drinking a little bit before you guys, so I think, I had a little bit of an incentive to stay up there, but it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Had so much fun, and we got to let you go to sleep.
Yeah. But thank you.
But we really enjoyed it,
so much.
And it was a pleasure. Thanks so much. Laura, you got the controls.
Thank you.
Oh, I have the controls. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Next month, just as a heads up, we are talking Zweigelt.
Yes.
So we will give you more information on that. But
you can go to our website, winephabetstreet.com. The webinars, it's all the registration for Zweigelt's up there.
And we will be in Austria next month.
Yes.
So again, I wish I was there in person. I wish I was in Turkey in person, but we'll have to deal with it through the internet. So thank you, everybody, for joining this episode of Winephabet Street. Thank you, Andrea, for staying up and sharing your knowledge. And I will say with my last little swig of this here, Slancha.
Cheers.
Cheers. Share to faith.
Lori, you got the controls.
There we go.
Well, what did you all think about Yapincak wines? I mean, it's really, I love about Winephabet Street is that we've really drinking and trying different grape varietals and different wines from different regions and areas of the world that normally one would never seek out. And I would definitely, if I saw Yapincak in the wine store, would definitely pick up a bottle. So I'm Debbie Giaquindo. I'm the Hudson Valley Wine Goddess. Please leave any comments about this podcast in wherever you're listening to this. If you have any questions whatsoever, please email me at debbie@hudsonvalleywinegoddess.com, DEBBIE. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and my website, hudsonvalleywinegoddess.com. Thanks and have a great day.